Okay, we are starting the recording. I am trying to figure out technology always, forever. I feel like this is the bane of my existence. Hello, welcome. We're going to get started here in a few minutes. I am just trying to set this to go record live on Facebook as well. Okay, we are going live on Facebook, preparing to live stream the webinar. Awesome. We are good. Okay, hello, everybody. And I just noticed a little typo, and this says March 16th on the presentation. Of course, it is March 17th today. Thank you so much for tuning in to How to Travel with Cannabis. And we're kind of at time. So I know people might be joining in a little bit late, but just wanted to go ahead for the sake of time and get through this. If you are tuning in live with us here on Zoom, you can drop your questions in the chat throughout the presentation. Certainly, we will get to them at the end of the Q&A. If you are on Facebook, welcome. And if you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, also welcome to you. There are many ways to get a hold of me and my team. So we appreciate you guys tuning in and educating yourself with us today. This is certainly a topic that comes up a lot in our Restart retail operation. And I also want to just kind of, put it out there that we are learning along with you guys. So we are trying to pull this information, aggregate it, and then educate everybody. And if there are new pieces of information that come out, we're always open to of course, continuously learning and evolving and adapting. But this is kind of like the most recent information that I was able to pull on how to travel with cannabis. I did want to also highlight, if you can hear my voice, I sound a little bit raspy. That's because I've been at South by Southwest all week this week, shouting, screaming. I was able to moderate a panel with Weed Maps earlier this week on rewriting cannabis drug testing policies, which was a very interesting conversation. I got to interview Ricky Williams, former University of Texas running back, and he actually was suspended for cannabis a couple times. So learned a lot from that conversation. But okay, I've given it a couple minutes. We're just going to go ahead and get started. Again, thanks everybody. You are tuning into the webinar on how to travel with cannabis. And we're going to kick things off right now. So a little bit of background of who we are, who I am. So I am the co-founder and CEO of Restart CBD. We are a women-owned, sister-owned brand that was founded in Austin, Texas in 2018. We were one of the first operators to open up our brand here in Texas, and we're about to celebrate 4 years in business this year. So super excited about that. As you can see, we were voted the best of in the Austin Chronicle and the Austin Statesman last year. And I was also voted the best cannabis educator, influencer, and advocate by the Texas Hemp Awards, and we are the #1 rated shop on Yelp and Google. I don't mention these things to, toot our horn other than just to put it in front of you. We strive really hard and through every aspect of our business to be educated, to educate others, to deliver high quality products. And it's a evolvement, right? This industry is very fast paced. And so we're constantly trying to evolve. We appreciate you guys tuning into these webinars, shopping with us, just continuously being advocates of cannabis, because this industry is full of a lot of chaos, right? Different types of products out there. Some are quality, some are not, some work, some don't. And I always argue it's not necessarily that cannabis, right, isn't effective. It's just, what is the quality of the product? What is the dose? What is the consumption method? And so kind of those are some of the things that I always try to encourage our customers, our consumers, our community to be mindful of when pursuing cannabis products. So that's a little bit about who we are. And then just a reminder too, we have a brick and mortar here in North Austin at 2521 Rutland Drive. We're open 6 days a week. You can come hang out with us, talk to our staff, ask questions, see products up close. And if you're tuning in from somewhere not in Austin, or you just want to stay in the comfort of your home, you can always shop online 24/7 at restartcbd.com. And again, I mention this because sometimes it's helpful to understand understand, we pull a lot of these questions and these insights from our customers. So when you guys come into the store, you reach out to us and you ask, what is the best way to travel with cannabis? Those are things that we really want to make sure that we can answer and address. Sorry, I turned my iPad off. I was seeing it was glaring at me. But so those are just some things to kind of keep in mind. We're really trying to work with our customers to address questions, address concerns, and move forward from that. This is my little spiel. So shopping for cannabis can be overwhelming, but with the help of Restart CBD, it doesn't have to be. And then just another disclaimer, I'm not a doctor or a lawyer. I encourage you to do further research on everything that I share. At the end of this presentation, I will provide more resources for you to continue to explore your canna curiosity. This is not legal advice or medical advice, so please treat as educational purposes and continue to do more research, especially on the topic of travel. As you will see as we go through this presentation, it's not very explicit, unfortunately, in some circumstances. And so you will need to use your best judgment. You can absolutely take what I say and throw it out the window. Maybe this is, education for you to say, maybe I shouldn't keep traveling with that product, or maybe I'm going to travel with it a little bit differently. So again, just want to kind of always bring these points of view to the forefront so that we can always uniquely, personally make the best decision for our bodies, ourselves, and really our loved ones around us. So if you do have questions, add them to the chat and I will answer them at the end. There is a little Q&A box. And so if you are thinking of something while I'm going through it, please drop it in there and I will save some time at the end to go through those questions. If you think of something after the fact, I'll also give you ways to contact our team, reach out to us directly and have your questions answered. So the big one, why travel with cannabis? You might be somebody who's on the other side of this, listening in and being like, I know why I travel with cannabis. Maybe you're like, I actually don't know why people travel with cannabis. What's the point? What's the purpose? You might be somebody who's trying to help educate a family member or a loved one on the benefits of traveling with cannabis, or maybe just really discover a new way and aspect about cannabis that you can benefit from when you travel with it. So when we talk about traveling with cannabis too, it's maybe me, I love cannabis and I deal with chronic pain and I want to take my, cannabis products with me so that I have what I need when I'm traveling. And you might relate to that. You might also be someone who also maybe like me, I get really anxious when I travel. So just the traveling component makes me really crave some cannabis and some CBD oil or CBD gummies. So kind of there's a few different reasons why you might want to travel with cannabis. So we're going to get into those right now. So really because cannabis could help. So like I said, from flight anxiety to post-flight jet lag, there are many reasons why someone would want to fly with CBD or other cannabinoids. You may also be going somewhere for an extended period of time and want to bring your favorite products to help you chill out, find pain relief, or just get a good night's rest. Reflecting on my own journey, I deal with chronic pain. So I'm not on opioids. I'm not on any other prescriptions. I really use cannabis to help me manage. And when I'm traveling, that means that, let's say I didn't bring my cannabis products, I'd have to go find my CBD products or other cannabis products. Maybe I'm traveling to a legal state and then I can certainly go to a dispensary. Maybe I'm traveling to a not, marijuana legal state. And in that case, I wish I had my own CBD products. And so really there's not a right or wrong way to kind of go about why you might need cannabis, but just trying to help, connect some dots for you guys as you're tuning into this. Another thing, I mentioned I have really bad anxiety when I'm traveling. I used to travel for my job. I used to do corporate events before I got into running Restart CBD as just one of the many hats I used to wear when I worked for this tech company. And I was on the plane a lot. And I can tell you, it doesn't get any easier the more you fly. And then obviously with the pandemic, putting a halt on a lot of this, I wasn't traveling as much. And so now when I am traveling, I get even more anxious. And I, like I said, love having CBD oil or gummies at my disposal so that I can medicate myself so that I can feel less anxious as I'm traveling. So again, just kind of keeping those things in mind. So that's kind of why people might want to travel with cannabis. And now this presentation, we're really going to get into the safety of it, kind of how to go about it, because I do think that, when you look at it from maybe our perspective, we ship our products nationwide. Usually no problem. I mean, hemp and CBD are federally legal as long as these minor cannabinoids, so CBG, CBN, CBD, even Delta 9 THC, even Delta 8 THC, as long as they are within those legal limits per the Farm Bill, which you can tune in some of our other webinars if you're curious to learn about Delta 9. We did a Hemp D9 webinar last month. And even if you're just curious about minor cannabinoids in general, have previous webinars and things all on our YouTube. But really looking at it, when you're shipping things through the postal service, there's just different governing bodies who are kind of overseeing it. So it's like, who is TSA? What is their role in this conversation? And so whether you're shipping things to yourself, there's might be a little bit more ease to ship from A to B versus you physically bringing products onto a plane. And so that's what we're going to kind of get into and help frame that conversation for you guys so that, we can all be a little bit smarter together as we're traveling with cannabis. So if you aren't familiar with this, maybe you haven't traveled in a while, maybe you travel all the time and you're like, I didn't actually know what these details were. In your carry-on bag, you are allowed 3.4 ounces, totaling 100 milliliters or smaller containers that fit in one quart-size resealable bag that can go in your carry-on through checkpoint security. So you're limited to smaller sizes if you are wanting to put things in your checked bag. You might do a checked bag because you don't like packing a bag and you don't like waiting for your bag to be done when you're, at the destination of your flight. You might be going on a quick trip. And so you don't want to check something either because it's just too bulky. Maybe you're not packing that many clothes. For whatever reason, there are certain limitations based on carry-on versus a checked bag. And then the checked bag is containers that are larger than 3.4 ounces, regardless of size, must be in checked bags. So really that threshold is less than 100 milliliters, 3.4 ounces, checked bag, anything larger than, carry-on bag, anything larger than that checked bag. And it really is just like a preference. Like I personally, I'll share kind of a little bit my own personal stuff, right? When I'm traveling with cannabis in general, I do not put it in my carry-on bag. I might put my small oil, I might put some edibles, my gummies with me, but for the most part, I'm putting my products in a checked bag. It's just a preference that I think I've kind of picked up over the years in terms of like being able to travel with cannabis. It's like I don't want it on my persons. I'd rather it be in my checked bag. But this graph is pulled from the TSA website. So a lot of this information is aggregated from what is on TSA's website, what are, leading travel blogs, what are leading kind of like cannabis publications that have aggregated some of this best practice for you guys. So this is on the TSA website. This is, explicitly to medical marijuana because you might be somebody or have a family member who is a medical marijuana patient in a state and wondering if you can travel with your medical marijuana products. As you can see, so this is from tsa.gov's website. To kind of go over it with you guys, carry-on bags, yes. Checked bags, yes. Marijuana and certain cannabis-infused products, including some CBD oil, remain illegal under federal law. And so I think the discernment with that statement is CBD, remember, can come from marijuana or hemp. So kind of keep that in mind. That next statement, no more than 0.3% THC on a dry weight basis. So as long as your CBD is less than 0.3%, including any THCs, then you're okay. But also just kind of best practice to make sure that you are, if you're traveling with medical marijuana, that you have your card, you have your prescription, you have your paperwork. And we'll get into some of those other things that you can do to kind of like prepare yourself in case you get stopped. But then this last sentence of this first paragraph, TSA officers are required to report any suspected violations of local law, to local, state, or federal authorities. So it's not that they want to look for your cannabis. It's if they find something that makes them feel suspicious, then they're going to stop you, pull you aside. And kind of reflecting on that last slide and screen, there are different sizes. So let's say you bring a large CBD oil in your your carry-on bag. Well, that might flag TSA because the oil is larger than that 3.4 ounces. And then therefore it gives them a reason to go through your bag. So you're really just trying not to give them a reason. And my hope with this conversation is to help guide you into like best practices, right? And then this just says TSA screening procedures are focused on security and are designed to detect potential threats to aviation and passengers. Accordingly, TSA security officers do not search for marijuana or other illegal drugs, but if any illegal substance is discovered during security screenings, TSA will refer that matter to law enforcement officers. So again, they're not looking for your cannabis, but if they find it, they will have to deal with it. Whether it's medical, you have to prove that it's medical, whether it's CBD and you have to prove that it's CBD. The whole point is just don't give them a reason to check for what you are packing with you. So the TSA did loosen up their regulations. That was reflected on the last screen. And so obviously it depends. The big kind of highlight is, marijuana and certain cannabis products are still not legal at a federal level. But again, as long as CBD products are made from hemp and they're legal under the Farm Bill, that is what is permissible and should be comfortable for you to travel through, airports and go through TSA security as a result of. There are some nuances though, right? So if you're flying to a domestic, so like state to state, there might be some different nuances than if you're flying, out of state, so internationally. And just a reminder, when you're flying is where federal law is applied because you're flying in, federal airspace that's governed by the government. And so the TSA is an organization that stops passengers from taking things onto planes. They run security checkpoints. But again, they're not really in the business of law enforcement. They are responsible for aviation security and are mainly looking for weapons and explosives. I am absolutely not saying that TSA is going to look the other way. Again, that is your discretion for what you want to pack and how you want to pack it. But when you understand that TSA is not looking for that, and when you can pack things in checked or carry on and make sure that they're appropriate sizes, you should have more ease navigating through TSA security when you are attempting to travel with cannabis products. So some TSA protocol. So once at the TSA checkpoint, what can CBD toting travelers expect? According to the TSA, screening is focused on security and protecting passengers' safety. TSA security offers don't search for marijuana or cannabis-infused products. However, in the event of a substance that appears illegal is discovered during security screening, that's when they will bring law enforcement. And then the other point is just, I'm sure you've seen like dogs wandering around the airport, sometimes, sniffing things, and they're really not drug dogs. Those are explosive and explosive component bomb dogs. So again, not saying bring your cannabis. The dogs aren't really smelling for that. It's just you don't want to give them a reason to go through your belongings and your bags. And if they happen to find something, they're going to leave it up to that local jurisdiction. So maybe you're traveling from California where things are a little bit more relaxed when it comes to cannabis. You might be okay if they find something in your bag. But maybe if you're traveling from Texas, where it is not federally legal, of course, and it is not state legal for marijuana products, anything with that high THC is where I would be really cautious and use your discretion. Again, these are just kind of tips pulled from what is TSA? What is TSA looking for? Kind of what are their guidelines? And so with that, you should hopefully be able to navigate and decide, I can travel with this product and maybe I shouldn't travel with that product. So can you take CBD and really cannabis on a flight? So again, we were mentioning domestic versus international. So I thought this was really interesting. So when traveling with CBD, the most important thing to remember is that the legality of these products changes based on your location. Again, I feel like we say it a lot, but you need to check locally where you are traveling to. Just because hemp is also federally legal, there are certain states that have certain nuanced laws, particularly maybe around flour or particularly around concentrates. So, traveling with flour in your bag versus an oil or gummy in your bag, it looks different. That if someone were to find it, it might be harder for them to talk out, or you talk out about, the flour, than it is talking about the gummies or the oil. And so, yes, CBD is legal in most states since 2018. Again, under that 0.3% THC. However, if you're traveling to a state that has strict marijuana regulations, research those laws before bringing CBD and make sure your CBD products are devoid of THC. So maybe traveling with isolate products versus a full spectrum oil, or making sure that the full spectrum oil is less than that 0.3% versus something that might be a little bit higher in THC. So domestic is obviously here in the States. So federal law is marijuana is not federally legal, but hemp is federally legal compared to international. So even more caution from my perspective and opinion, even more caution should be taken when traveling internationally. When you travel outside of the US, the rules shift on a per country basis. Yes, CBD is legal in some places, but it is also illegal in some European countries. So there, if you Google it, you'll find the most updated list. I recently found like a law firm had put together a list of all the states and all the countries. So whether you're traveling domestically or internationally, where you can and can't comfortably take cannabis products into. And so this is just like kind of like a condensed version of that list: Iceland, Monaco, Montenegro, and Asian countries such as Cambodia and Vietnam. Most African and Middle Eastern countries have banned all cannabis products, CBD included. So if you're like, I'm going to go to Egypt and I'm not going to take, my THC products, but I want to take my CBD oil, that's a risk that you are taking on. It's not that these countries are again going to go look for your cannabis products in your checked bag or your carry-on bag, but if there is a reason for them to do so and they come across these products, you're going to have to explain yourself and or hope that it doesn't end in an arrest or a fine. And so that's really where your discretion is really required for these types of opportunities that you're willing to take. So we talked about checks, we talked about carry-on bags. We're going to kind of revisit it a little bit because I do think there's some nuance to it. So depending on what product you are traveling with might also dictate again where it should go. So liquids, if you have a small bottle of oil, for sure you can bring that in your carry-on bag. If you have a larger bottle of oil that exceeds whatever the TSA's limits are, you want to put that in your checked bag. What I thought was really interesting is people don't really realize this, but vape pens, cartridges, people think that they can bring that on in their bag, their purse, no problem. But it is actually, you cannot put your vape pen, so specifically the battery, and this is like a tip, right? You cannot put the battery of your vape pen in your checked bag because battery could be an explosive. And so if you travel with, battery recharging devices or anything, sometimes like when you're checking into your flight, it's like, are there any batteries or explosives in your checked bag? You don't want to put your battery for your vape pen in your checked bag. So sometimes, for example, when I'm flying to Colorado or California, I would love to buy a THC vape cartridge and I want to bring my own battery. Just tuck that battery in your carry-on bag. You don't want to put it in your checked bag because that can be a problem. So, cannabis travel best practices. The best rule of thumb when traveling with CBD is to research whether your destination and or countries or states you are traveling through to get to your destination allow CBD. You should also make sure to thoroughly understand the products in your possession and whether they contain any THC or are purely CBD. Again, part of this ownership falls on us, the consumers. When I'm bringing this bottle of water, TSA wants me to dump it out. Why? Because they don't know what's the containments in this liquid. But if it's a smaller bottle, that is permissible as long as it is under their certain, 3 ounces of liquid, and the size of the bottle is smaller. And so I can put that in my carry-on bag versus my checked bag. So you need to know what is in the containments of the container that you are bringing. I think I have a slide on it. If not, just want to kind of like verbally like mention it and I'll reiterate if the slide comes up. We talked about flower versus gummies. Flower looks like marijuana. So whether it's federally legal or not, and again, like I mentioned earlier, I can ship you flower from here, from Texas to, let's say, North Carolina or or California, whatever state you want me to ship to. But am I going to bring those hemp flower products on the plane with me? Personally, I'm not, because that looks like marijuana and TSA isn't trained. There's no on the spot testing for them to determine that is hemp versus marijuana. And so for my benefit, I don't want to get stopped at TSA. Again, I want to kind of just like get in, get out and make it to my flight. I'm not going to do things that could get me in trouble and confuse the TSA agents. So if you think something might be confusing, probably don't travel with that or pack that. But then, if it's something that you're like, okay, this is for sure CBD, this is for sure hemp based, and you have documentation, whether it's a COA, the barcode has a QR code on the package, or you have labeling on the packaging itself, those are all things that I would say keep in mind as you are traveling and wanting to travel with cannabis. So if you're traveling with medical marijuana or an FDA approved drug, this is what I'm just talking about, bring your prescription with you in case there are any questions. You want to keep the marijuana and the packaging of the drug in its original packaging. And then same for CBD. If you have CBD products, find the product certificate of analysis or COA and keep the labeling on that package. Again, if it's just like an empty container and you're like, I swear these are just gummies, that's going to be a little bit harder to prove and probably take longer time to prove versus if you just left it in the packaging and you're like, these are CBD gummies. Here's the COA for a scannable QR code on the package. So just want to think mindfully about how you're traveling with these products. And again, what is the quality of the product inside? Is it cannabis? Is it hemp? Is it marijuana? And is it federally legal or not? So this is pulled from a Los Angeles attorney who is familiar with cannabis issues and encourages passengers to be cautious. He recommends not taking CBD on international flights. Again, my perspective on all of this is use your discretion. This is your life that you are putting at risk by either not traveling with your cannabis or your medication or traveling with it, right? If you don't travel with it and you really need it, like do what you think is best for you, take the risk. But as you can tell from these experts, there still is a risk, even if you're traveling with CBD products. So this quote goes, the laws in the jurisdiction you are flying to can be drastically different. Flying domestically with a CBD product is obviously less of a risk. See how he doesn't say there's no risk? There still is potential risk. He says less of a risk. But I still think there are risks. Not everyone is up to date on the new TSA stance. Hemp is not a controlled substance federally, but people transporting it across state lines get pulled over. Law enforcement officials are not familiar with the differences between hemp derived CBD and cannabis derived CBD. As for marijuana, medical or recreation, the best advice he says is leave it at all at home. And if you're flying, especially because it's a Schedule 1 drug. So again, there's not risk. You are just choosing how much risk you want to take on by traveling with your medical marijuana or cannabis products in general. And yes, even your CBD products. So if you want to travel with cannabis, and specifically we're talking about hemp-based products and specifically Restart CBD cannabis products, then this is kind of like a little quick guide of things that, we have put together from our end that we think are better and less risky to be traveling with cannabis if you are someone who's looking to travel with your CBD products. And so before we get into some of the things that we feature, this is kind of a list of things that you could travel with, right? So CBD oils, we talked about vape pens and cartridges, capsules like soft gels or like little kind of cannabis put into pill shapes, bud, flower, gummies, drinks, bath products, bath bombs, bath salts, and topicals. And in theory, they are all legal and able to be brought onto planes if the THC concentration is below 0.3. Again, the only product that I might hesitate with is CBD flower because the TSA officer might mistake it for weed. And again, like I mentioned earlier, the TSA can't test your CBD product at the checkpoint for THC levels. Instead, they would be relying on the packaging, and CBD flower just looks too much like weed. And I'd be worried I'd end up missing my flight if the police became involved. So use your discretion, travel with what you think you need, and also kind of be mindful. So if I'm traveling with a cartridge, I'm going to put that in my carry-on bag and not my checked bag. And then depending on oil size, carry-on versus checked, topicals, carry-on versus checked versus gummies. Really, I think you could go either way, carry-on or check. It just kind of depends what your preference is at that point. I thought these were worthwhile sharing because I was coming across a couple blog posts and they were saying TSA is really responsive, so if you have a question very specific to like, can I travel with cannabis, like going and DMing TSA on Twitter and seeing how they respond to it, to get like their, most accurate answer if you are really curious. But as you can tell from these, TSA is giving the same response. So they're always going to kind of like answer one, answer two, answer one, answer two, answer one, answer two. So I'll kind of go through the three different like questions that were being asked, and then we can read through what the TSA's kind of like standard response is, which again, it's not explicit. So use your discretion. Someone says, hey, TSA, if CBD oil is less than 0.3% THC, can travelers bring it through airport security? It says, thanks for asking. Marijuana and certain cannabis infused products, including some cannabidiol, CBD oil, remain illegal under federal law, except for products that contain no more than 0.3% THC on a dry weight basis or are approved by the FDA. And the second message says, see the Agriculture Improvement Act of 2018. TSA officers are required to report any suspected violations of law to local, state, or federal authorities. So as you can tell, Andrea asked the question. She goes, does that mean yes? CBD oil less than 0.3% can be brought through security. And then this gentleman, Chris, kind of jumps in. Anything less than 0.3% is federally legal. And so you should have no problem traveling with them, is kind of the point, right? So he says all of his stuff is federally compliant. All of our stuff is federally compliant. But the same point is my flower is federally compliant. Would I bring flower on a flight? I personally would not. So then Flea asks, can I bring my CBD infused gummies on a plane? I need them for anxiety when flying and don't want to have them confiscated. And TSA gives him the same response. And as you can tell, these are from 2019 and 2020. But these are the same answers that was pulled from one of the first slides that is on TSA's website. So the root of their position hasn't changed. And so then this last one is, I'll be traveling soon from New Jersey to Florida. Am I allowed to bring this much CBD on one flight? I want to make sure I'm protected while I'm in Florida the entire time. TSA didn't answer. They gave the standard response. Now, what we don't have reflected and what I would love is like, what are these people's experience after? Did they travel with it and were they okay? I can only speak from personal experience, and I have kind of implemented a lot of these tactics and tips that I've shared. Yes, I travel with my CBD products. I travel with my oil. I travel with my cartridges. I travel with my gummies. And again, kind of based on what I'm taking and what the size of the packaging is, I am choosing either checked or carry on, or if I'm bringing flour, or I shouldn't say if I'm bringing flour. If it comes to a flour product, I'm just not traveling with flour. If no ifs, ands, or buts, I'm not doing it. That would scare me personally. So kind of getting into a little bit of what we offer at Restart CBD, we are really big travelers ourselves. And when we first launched the brand, had these kind of trial sizes, but we're rebranding them now as travel size CBD. So you can shop our website. If you go to our homepage, these are right on the homepage right now. We're promoting all of our travel CBD products, and also kind of like why we went in alignment, wanted to make a how to travel with cannabis webinar, because we get asked a lot of these questions. People come in, they buy products. Maybe they're visiting us here in Austin. They're like, can I travel home with this? And hopefully this gave you some good insight into what you can travel with and how best to travel with cannabis. But we did our base oils. So in 40 milligrams, isolate and full spectrum. And then we also have a CBG, a CBN, THCV, Delta 9 THC, and a Delta 8 THC oil. Again, these are all federally compliant. These are all in 10 ml bottles. So they are under what is allowed in a carry-on bag. So for sure allowable and checked. And if you're somebody who is looking for something to take with you while you're traveling that isn't your full-size bottle, I encourage you to check out our travel size kits. And then, our travel size CBD oils and cannabis oils. And then we also have a travel sample kit. So this is kind of a little bit of all of it. It comes with an oil, it comes with a mini topical, it comes with a couple gummies for you guys to be able to have some things while you are traveling, which isn't requiring you to bring like your full packaging. So that way, again, just depending on where you're going and how you're traveling, you might not want to bring your full size products. And so again, these are things that we're trying to think through at Restart CBD, knowing that a lot of our customers travel and we get asked these questions a lot. How can we develop packaging and products and kits that can help you guys continue to use cannabis products without feeling like you have to stop using them because you want to travel with your cannabis products? So that's kind of like the gist of the presentation. So if you have questions, please feel free to drop them. Otherwise, if you have additional, follow up that we don't cover here today and you think of something later, feel free to email us at info@restartcbd.com. We are always happy to respond and talk to our customers and get feedback, both good and bad. And then make sure you join our Secret Restart CBD Facebook group. If you just type in Secret Restart CBD group on Facebook, that's a really good peer-to-peer platform that we've started that allows you to connect with other customers and other community members who might have questions about traveling with cannabis. And you can share your stories too, because people really appreciate hearing from other people's experiences. I always love to highlight this. Talk to our team. Our team is so knowledgeable, whether you come in store, you go to our website, we have a chat feature on the homepage, send us an email. Our team is really there to help guide and support you guys as you are navigating cannabis. Of course, like I mentioned, we're not doctors, we're not lawyers. I can't say travel with this product and you're going to have complete safety. We always do try to offer up, these different points and ultimately to give you some comfortability to be informed to make the best decision for you. I don't think there's a right decision. I don't think there's I don't want to say less risky solution, but there's no risk, right? There's going to be some risk when you're traveling with cannabis just due to its federal status from a marijuana perspective. But talking to our team, asking about specific products that you want to travel with, we can certainly kind of do our best to help guide you from there. If you are someone who wants to take advantage of talking to a medical professional, we have partnered with Leaf 411 and they are a cannabis nurse hotline. They are free, but they do have so much interest that they've issued us a special code for our customers because we are a paying member of their platform. And so if you're interested in that, shoot us an email at info@restartcbd.com and we will share that specific code with you. So you or your loved ones can talk to a medical professional. Again, we're not medical professionals, but we are cannabis professionals, and medical professionals like Lee 411 are a great solution who understands cannabis and understands the medicine side of it and can help kind of be a good middle ground for us all as we navigate what cannabis is and how we can best utilize it to find health and wellness for ourselves on a day-to-day basis. Next webinar is going to be really exciting. Again, these are things that come up a lot in our store, just through our social media. In fact, just yesterday, I got a message from someone that was like, Thank you so much for talking openly about cannabis. I wish I could do the same and help my mom see that it's not this, negative plant. And I was like, oh my gosh, I feel that. And I also feel really blessed that I have such an open family. Again, we're a family brand. So my parents are very supportive of this. But for every supportive parent, I know that there's 10 parents that probably aren't. And that's not an explicit stat. It's just a general, we have a long way to go. And so this talk is really going to help whether you want to come out to your parents as a cannabis consumer and try to help reduce the stigma, or you want to help your parents understand cannabis a little bit better because maybe you think that they could benefit from cannabis. This is the webinar to watch, to send them to share with them. And it's not just parents, right? It's grandparents, it's loved ones. And so this webinar is really going to be intended to have that conversation and really frame it for, how we've been able to navigate that conversation with both our parents who openly support what we're doing in cannabis, and also some of our family members who might have a little bit more of a stigma around what we do. So check that out. Send that out to people, restartcbd.com/webinar. If you want to check out our other webinars, other events going on, if you are in Austin, just a little heads up, tomorrow, which will be Friday, March 18th, we're doing a live panel on the future of cannabis at South by Southwest on the east side. You can reach out and ask us for the code for that. We can send you the link to that event. Otherwise, all of our events are on restartcbd.com/events, and our previous webinars are all on our YouTube. Again, you want to understand about THCV, hemp-derived delta-9, different terpenes, different cannabinoids. We're trying to bring these conversations to y'all so that we can all educate ourselves as a community and help spread that knowledge and ultimately help destigmatize cannabis. And thank you for tuning into the webinar. If you are interested in purchasing any of our products, we have a 5 off 50, and you can use the code at travel webinar for Restart CBD shipping and shopping online. Thank you again for taking the time to tune in today. We really, really, truly want to deliver information that is relevant to y'all. So if you have ideas for future webinars, topics that we haven't covered, questions that you want us to answer, please reach out to us and let us know. Otherwise, thank you. And we're going to kind of open it up for questions right now. And let me just see if there are any. There might not be, and that's okay too. I think, sometimes when we're going over different cannabinoids, how it's working in our body, there might be certain things that people are trying to figure out because our biochemistries are also unique and different. But when it comes to obviously traveling, there's not a, you know, what can I bring this product or can I not bring that product? It really is on a case by case basis to have those conversations. So just want to kind of like leave that out there. If you have questions and you want them answered, I am here. We are live and ready to go. Otherwise, I thank you guys so much for taking the time again to tune into our webinar series. If you have any questions or thoughts, always feel free to reach out. Otherwise, we'll catch you next month at another webinar. So someone did ask, so pretty much the best way to travel is with anything in your checked bag. So Charlie, I would agree with that. That is kind of my best practice. Again, use your discretion, but I don't like things being in my carry-on bag because it's on my persons. If TSA stops me and they see me, it's like right there and then. I certainly have nothing to hide, but again, to kind of mitigate some of those things, something that I didn't mention that I think is probably worthwhile, you know, if you're traveling with cannabis in your carry-on bag, you should probably just like put all your toiletries in like the same package, like, like a DOP kit or a plastic baggie that's clear. So you can kind of like show TSA, kind of make it as easy for them to scan and move you along. So if you have your products all over the place in your carry-on bag or your checked bag and they're seeing like liquid kind of popping up all over, that probably is going to be suspicious for them to kind of like want to open your bag. So for me, I always put all my cannabis products in my checked bag and I put them in my DOP kit. So it's all contained in the same bag. The only thing, yeah, so they were also saying they have no problems with checked bag. I've done the DOP kit. Thanks for the battery information. So yeah, again, it's not that the battery is illegal for you to travel with, right? It's that it could be a battery, AKA explosive. So the battery needs to be in your carry-on, but usually anything else, if I'm traveling with like CBD cartridges, I will put that in my checked bag and I'll put those in my DOP kit. So again, I'm grouping everything and putting them in something that is all my liquids together so that they're kind of seeing them all at the same time. And it looks, in my opinion, less threatening. So really great question. Thanks for bringing that up and for helping us clarify that a little bit more. Any other questions? Anything else that I can answer for you guys today? hold now or email us at info@restartcbd.com and we will take care of those answers after the fact. Okay, I think that's all for today. I'm going to let you guys loose a little bit early. Like I said, this wasn't a super intense conversation, but again, we know people who love to travel with their cannabis products and they want to be able to take it from point A to point B. And just hope you guys continue to travel safely and appreciate you being Restart customers, being a part of the Restart community, joining us on these educational webinars. And this will be live on our YouTube later today if you want to send it to a friend, or you had something that you wanted me to go back on a slide that you missed a little bit more of the detail on. And so otherwise, thanks y'all so much for tuning in, and we will be back next month with how to talk to your parents and loved ones about cannabis. Bye y'all.